Alrighty, so Ranger Veteran is one of those classes where his value skyrockets when he's playing in a pre-made. The reason for that is he has so many different builds he can go for, and the value of those is different based upon what builds everyone else in the party is running and what characters are playing and so on. Now, he's still good for Cataclysm quick play, although some of his value does dwindle a little bit when you're playing in quick play. Now, there's actually a lot to talk about when it comes to Ranger Veteran because there's a ton of different builds you could go for. Now, there is one build that we're going to talk about that is kind of the tried and true, the build that you want to go for most of the time if you don't want to do anything fancy or fun. So yeah, we've got a few builds to go over. We're going to keep this as tight and compact as we possibly can. And we're going to talk about the weapons first because that is actually the easiest thing to talk about with Ranger Veteran. Now, as we all probably know at this point, the dual hammers are Barden's best weapon, closely followed by the cog hammer, and I would recommend either of those weapons for Ranger Veteran. I've seen some people too even use shield weapons on Ranger Veteran. If you just want to stick purely to special sniping, and you just want to stagger everything when the horde comes with the shield, by all means, do that if that's your thing. Like I've said before, it's not my thing. So we're actually going to go over the dual hammers in this video. I just haven't talked about them yet, and I already talked about the cog hammer in the last video, so now is as good a time as any to talk about the dual hammers. Now, I've actually been wrong about the dual hammers before. Previously, I thought the horde clear combo was just to spam lights. Turns out that is completely and utterly incorrect. The correct combo for killing trash is just light, heavy, heavy, light, heavy, heavy, light. And as soon as I figured this out, it made a lot more sense to me why my results on the dual hammers just were not as great as everybody hyped them up to be. And if we look at the numbers, you can see why that's a better combo. The first light attack has okay cleave, but the important thing about that light attack is that it gets you on heavy 2 and 3 after it. And you see these have high cleave, high stagger, high damage, and it also has a tank attribute. So these two heavies are really what's going to destroy a horde. And additionally, having the dodge bonus is always nice, and having 3 effective dodges is always nice as well. Okay, so now for killing elites or armored enemies, your combo is a push attack and a heavy, and a push attack and a heavy. It's quick, it's probably going to stagger whatever you're hitting, and it's pretty safe to use. Now, additionally, you can add in another light after that push attack. It extends the combo and it's going to do a little bit more damage. However, I find it to be a little too awkward. Honestly, having that extra light in there makes the combo feel a bit more sluggish to me. I like the snappiness of the push attack and the heavy. One additional thing I like to do when I'm using the dual hammers is, so if we think about this light, heavy, heavy combo, it's really slow, right? I crit there, so I had swift slaying. It was a little bit faster. But so one thing I like to do is just spam lights until I get swift slaying and then start doing that combo. So if I'm lucky there, I get a crit and then I start doing it. And if we see without the swift slaying, it's pretty slow. And like, for me, this is too slow. Like, it's a little dangerous to use. And it's also worth noting that I've also seen people just do a light and a heavy and then resetting as a combo, which is just as good, just a little more APM intense and a little more intense on the timing. Combos are not that intuitive, but once you get them down, this weapon becomes an absolute monster. Okay, so now we need to talk about ranged weapons. And the good news is basically all of his ranged weapons are good with the exception of the throwing axes. The Grudge Raker has kind of fallen in value just as the game has progressed and evolved. Shotgun builds have just not become quite as good. However, if you do like running shotgun builds, the Grudge Raker is just as good as Saltspire's shotgun pistols. The Grudge Raker is going to do a little bit better job of killing specials that are nearby, but isn't going to hit as many enemies as the shotgun pistols. So then that leaves us with the Masterwork Pistol, the Handgun, and the Crossbow. Now, the probably most common one I see is the Masterwork Pistol, and that's for good reason. The Masterwork Pistol absolutely annihilates bosses to almost a comedic degree. It's ideal for taking out elites that are kind of in the medium range, and it's good at killing specials in the medium range, but as soon as you're trying to kill things that are really far away, the weapon completely falls apart. Now, we do have to talk about breakpoints in this video. And all breakpoints is a threshold of damage that you have to meet in order to kill enemies that you wouldn't be able to kill before. And to get to that threshold, you mainly utilize the blue stats on your ranged weapon and the charm. And usually this is talking about killing specials with a one-shot body shot, though not always. So for example, with the Masterwork Pistol, it's pretty much impossible to one-shot body shot a Blightstormer from far away on Cataclysm. But what you can do is take power versus chaos on both the charm and the weapon, take power versus infantry, and also power versus Skaven. And that allows you to body shot maulers, berserkers, monks while you are in your cloud. And if you pair this with the trait hunter, if hunter is active, then you can one-shot body shot a Blightstormer from far away. The blue stats I'm using on my weapons that are on my actual account and on the video aren't necessarily min-maxed for breakpoints. So what I'll do is put a pinned comment on this video with several links to min-maxed builds, and of course, I'll pair those with the different talent builds I'm going to discuss here in a few minutes. And they're all interchangeable. You don't necessarily have to take a certain weapon with a certain talent build. If you really want to go down this rabbit hole, you can go check out the breakpoint calculator. So the second weapon we will talk about is the handgun. Now, this is hands down probably the best and easiest weapon for special sniping, in that it's going to hit pretty much every breakpoint that's possible. You're going to kill Blightstormers from very, very far away. If you're kind of new to special sniping, or you don't want to worry about getting headshots at all, then handgun is the perfect weapon for you. So then the conversation really becomes about which one is better, the crossbow or the handgun, and the answer to that is, I don't know. Okay, but really, the handgun is going to hit those breakpoints way, way easier and is a lot easier to use, I would say. The crossbow has two things over the handgun, and those are the amount of ammo and the time it takes to reload. The crossbow is not going to one-shot most specials. The only one it will one-shot is the gutter runner. Now, if you hit a headshot with the crossbow, it is going to one-shot every special. Basically, no matter the distance, you have to be really, really, really far away to not one-shot a Blightstormer with a headshot. So the crossbow is great if you really want to go for those headshots, because it will be faster to use than the handgun. And additionally, and this is the real reason I hate using the handgun sometimes, is how inaccurate the hipfire is. And the crossbow's hipfire is pretty dang accurate. The handgun is better if you just don't want to worry about headshots, and the crossbow is better if you want to go for headshots and you want to have an accurate hipfire. Okay, so now we get to talk about the real meat of this video, and that is the talent builds. There's two different talent builds I'm going to talk about, and the first one is the kind of tried and true, it's always going to bring a lot of value to your team. Now, we always run enhanced power on special sniping builds. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because you need this extra 7% to hit breakpoints and to, just do more damage with your ranged weapon. And the level 20 talents are really the ones that are all viable. You could take any three of these, but for this build, the tried and true build, we're taking Grungy's Cunning. But there's a caveat to this, in that there's a lot of lobbies, especially quick play lobbies, where you just don't need the extra ammo. With Warrior Priest and Battle Wizard being the best classes in the game right now, neither of them need ammo. A lot of elves are just taking Javelin nowadays, as much as I hate it. And also, a lot of people like to play Grail Knight as opposed to other Kruber classes. So it wouldn't be all that uncommon that you get into a Kata quick play lobby and you are the only one using ammo, in which case you definitely don't need Grungy's Cunning. Which is partly why I said Barden's value kind of skyrockets when he goes into pre-mades and kind of dwindles when he's in quick play. To really get value out of these level 20 talents, you really kind of have to know what your team comp is and what builds your teammates are running, and etc. For level 25 talent, Exuberance is probably the best. No Dawdling is meh, and Firing Fury is pretty much just exclusively for the Grudge Raker. And now for the level 30 talents, we have two options. Now, the tried and true, always going to bring value, is Exhilarating Vapors, which essentially just gives your team temp HP healing and attack speed. You can really never go wrong with that. That's going to have value every single time. And the other option is Ranger's Parting Gift, which is the fun one. And so one thing you need to know about this ult is that the tooltip is misleading. Once you ult, you get the Ranger's Parting Gift buff, and that lasts for the rest of the game. It lasts until you throw a bomb. So you could ult at the very beginning of the game and throw a bomb 10 minutes later, and you won't consume the bomb because you would still have the buff at that point. So that is the tried and true. I like to think of it as the boring build. It's probably the best. It's going to give you value every time you play it, and this is really just for quick play lobbies when you don't know what you're walking into. Now with that being said, we're going to be talking about the second build, which I like to call the Master of Consumables. Now for the second build, your level 20 talent is kind of key. It kind of defines the build. So first we need to talk about Drunken Brawler. And what this does is sometimes when a special dies, you will drop ale on the ground, and whoever drinks the ale will get a buff that stacks up to 3 times, gives them attack speed, gives them damage reduction. Those are stats that are always going to be useful on melee characters. So this is perfect if you have 2 melee killers on your team, and particularly ones that scale well with attack speed. So an example would be, say you had a mercenary and a zealot on your team. They would get huge value because they're both kind of health trading, high attack speed, high cleave builds. Drunken Brawler is one of my favorite talents in the game and can be super fun if you're working with the right party. So now if you want to take a more holistic approach, you could also take Scavenger. And for Scavenger, we need to talk about the charm trait, because you have options. Say you wanted to take a more supportive role and you run proxy and you just drink every potion you get next to whoever needs that buff. Another approach you could take would be using Homebrewer, where you drink every potion you get and sometimes you don't even consume it. So yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with Scavenger, I think. Is it the best? Only in very specific parties. I would only take Scavenger in parties that don't need a lot of ammo, and a party that doesn't have really good synergy with Drunken Brawler. So for the Master Consumables build, we of course are taking Ranger's Parting Gift. What I should say about taking this talent is that you want to be spamming your ult, and every time you ult, you want to be throwing a bomb. You want to get as much value as you can, and don't be afraid to throw away your last bomb, especially if you're running Scavenger, because don't forget, Scavenger also drops bombs. So yeah, with Ranger's Parting Gift and Scavenger, you're kind of delivered this playstyle that is completely different and completely unique from any other career in the game, where you are really kind of just abusing consumables to the absolute maximum you can. Is it the best and most reliable? No, not really. If you want the best and most reliable, probably just go with the tried and true build. But I'm gonna be honest with you, even running this in Cata Quick Play is going to make your lobby so much more fun. And just additionally, I don't know that this is necessarily optimal or good. You could also play with using different traits on your necklace too. Don't forget, with Ingenious Improvisation, we have a 10% chance to not consume an item when we use it. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that it stacks with things like Healer's Touch that give you an additional 25% chance to not consume an item. So a 35% chance of not consuming a healing item is a pretty good deal. You have a lot of options with the Ranger Veteran, and I would encourage you to kind of use the different traits, the different builds that are, not necessarily good on other characters. Ranger Veteran has a completely unique playstyle when you're running the Scavenger build. And that's really ultimately why he's one of my favorite classes in the game. So yeah, that is the Ranger Veteran. The video is a bit long at this point, so I'm going to save the strategy and gameplay portion of the video for another video that's going to come out just a few days after this one goes live. And in that one, we're not just going to just talk about the Ranger Veteran. It's really going to become a discussion more about special sniping in general, and to even talk about that, we really have to talk about the strategy for Vermintide in general. So that's going to be a video that I'm really excited to make. I love seeing all your guys' comments in the videos. I see every single one, so if you have a question or if you disagree with something, just, say something in the comments. We're all kind of participating in this discussion around Vermintide. I appreciate you spending your time watching, listening to me talk about Vermintide. If you like the video, please subscribe, give the video a like, and I will see you on the next one.